Hi, my name is Benjamin Crooker, and today I will be presenting about the geological and theological significance of the Montserrat mountain range. The Montserrat mountain range is located near Barcelona in the Catalonia region of Spain. It stands out starkly on the Catalan landscape, easily visible and distinguishable by its abundance of teeth-looking peaks of oddly smooth rock. The story behind the formation of Montserrat is an extremely interesting one. The mountains are made out of conglomerate, a sedimentary rock formed by depositions of pebbles and smaller rock fragments from either rivers or glaciers. While this isn't a compositional phenomenon unique to Montserrat, it is certainly uncommon, and the formation of the range itself is most certainly not what would be seen in a classic mountain range. Montserrat and the rest of the Catalan coastal ranges lie in the Ebro-Forlian Basin, created during the formation of the Pyrenees mountain range. A study in the 70s examined such basins and looked at how erosion and the topographical structure responded accordingly to conditions like these. The conclusion was that the Pyrenees range developed via tectonic uplift, and the crust had a flexural response to the thrusting weight of the mountain range, which, in layman's terms, can be thought of as standing on one side of a wooden board and seeing the dip that comes from your weight. During the Eocene epoch, rivers and debris flows started dumping tons of material into what would become the Montserrat Fan Delta. These deposits began to construct and form the conglomerate that makes up the Montserrat Range. This process lasted for about 4.4 million years and eventually came to a halt when the Pyrenees tectonics settled down. From there, underground tectonic conditions and pressure caused the conglomerate to fracture and lift, forming the complex rock structure seen today. A study by Alsaker in the 90s examined the fracturing process of Montserrat and found that there are three big sets of fractures dubbed sets A, B, and C, each of which resulted from different stress directions over millions of years. However, the structure of Montserrat also presents unique challenges to this day, especially with how touristy the area has become. Much of the conglomerate has ancient fractures that are a natural process of the range's formation. And the recent study conducted in 2017 examined some of these challenges and assessed that the structural composition can lead to sudden rockfalls, with chunks of conglomerate up to 1,000 cubic meters. Montserrat is perhaps most well known, though, for its significance along the Camino Ignaciano. The Camino Ignaciano is the pilgrimage that St. Ignatius took from his hometown of Loyola to Manresa. His initial plan was to set out from his hometown of Loyola to the shrine of the Virgin at the monastery at Montserrat, and then continuing through Barcelona on his way to Jerusalem. However, what was supposed to be a stay overnight in the town of Manresa, about 30 miles or so west of Barcelona, turned into a year developing his now well-known spiritual exercises. Outside of Manresa, Ignatius' time at Montserrat was some of his most significant along the Camino. Before the Shrine of the Virgin, or more commonly known as the Black Madonna, Ignatius laid down his sword, committing himself to a life of holiness following Christ and distancing himself from his rambunctious past. Ignatius did not stick around for too long at Montserrat. He was in and out within a span of only about 3 days. From there, he made his way to Manresa, which, being about only 16 miles from the monastery, was likely only a day trip for him. He created his aforementioned spiritual exercises there, fresh off his discernment and commitment in front of the Black Madonna. Once Ignatius eventually set out again a year later, he, like many Christians in the 15 and 1600s, saw his role as being one of a missionary for other faiths. So he continued onward to the Holy Land by traveling through Venice, but was turned away by the Franciscan priests because of political unrest at the time. Consequently, Ignatius went to Rome, but his desire for evangelization and spiritual discourse with the Muslims did not subside. He established institutions for Muslim converts in Rome, Messina, Montreal, and Malta. While his plans for designated Muslim missions in the Middle East never came to fruition, he nonetheless set in motion an effort by the Jesuits to engage with and understand Islam rather than just outright condemning it. Ignatius credited his mindset towards Islam with an encounter he had with a Muslim pilgrim early in his life. The Muslim challenged his beliefs about the Virgin Mary, and in frustration, Ignatius nearly came to blows with him. In fact, Ignatius later admitted that he would have actually physically confronted the man later if his donkey had chosen the path that would have followed the man. Luckily for him, the donkey chose to continue on the path to Montserrat. Completely true story. Later, in his life, Ignatius reflected on that experience as a moment of spiritual immaturity, an idea that stuck with him throughout the rest of his life and his mission, centering him on approaching non-Christianity religions with a human-centered approach. We can draw a parallel between this encounter and when Ignatius laid down his sword at Montserrat. Both of these instances marked a profound shift in his mindset towards his spirituality and to his life. In laying down his sword, Ignatius formally renounced his past life of debauchery, recognizing it as an immature distraction from his guiding mission in life. Similarly, Ignatius's restraint from violence towards the Muslim pilgrim, even if it came because his donkey chose a different path than the one the man took, was still, to some degree, a rebuke of what he saw as immature behavior by the church to approach religious discourse and dialogue with a fixed mindset. Ordinarily, a Catholic during that time would not have even had that conversation with the Muslim in the first place. Ignatius was unquestionably well ahead of his time. Rome and the Catholic institutions in the 16th and 17th centuries did not take well to his approach, and outside of a few fellow Jesuits, Ignatius was one of the few Catholic figures willing to approach the Islamic faith from a perspective of genuine curiosity, yet, albeit with a subdued desire to convert them. When I walked the Camino Ignaciano over March of 2024, I approached Montserrat with a similar mindset to Ignatius. As I anticipated heading off to college in a few months afterwards, I looked at Montserrat and the hike up the mountain as an opportunity to reflect on my time in high school and how I wanted to approach the next chapters of my life. I made my decision to attend BC while I was on the Camino, and I have nonetheless found the calibration to be extremely beneficial.